This is the White Sands National Park in America, in the state of New Mexico. Very interesting place, you know. The sand is just white as anything. So you can go there and explore a little bit things there. Can you connect me the projector on the left side? So, one second, right there, still is loading. There's. So yeah, the book is there, and I'm going to be citing some of my research. Also, there's the Twitter account there. A few more things I put on my Twitter. Very interesting study, how when you are sleeping deeply, that's when your brain is getting rid of the waste in your brain. So you need the deep type of sleep for the cleansing of the brain to take place. One of the best ways of improving that sleep is what we're going to be talking about in a minute. This very interesting study, this just came out. You know, you hear on the internet that potatoes are going to make you sick, potatoes are going to give you diabetes and so forth. So they designed this study to show if that's really the reality. And look at what they happen. If you eat the potato just boiled, no problem, no increase in diabetes risk. If you eat the potato baked, no problem. If you eat the potato as puree, no problem. No increase in diabetes. Only the fried potatoes increase the risk of diabetes. So the problem is actually not the potato. What is it? The fat. So don't fry your food. If you like fried food, invest in one of those air fryers. Those air fryers can do a wonderful job and not necessarily, you know, put all this fat in your food, increasing your risk of diabetes. I just put this one, you know, 2 weeks ago, so go and find it there on my Twitter if you're interested. This one, very interesting study, how as you increase your fiber, your blood pressure comes down. So for each additional 5 grams of fiber that you take, you lower 2.8 milligrams of your blood pressure. Very interesting, isn't it? Because a medication is going to lower it by about 5, 6, 7. So 2.8 is actually quite significant. How are we going to do this without having to measure and so forth? Whole food, plant-based diet, you know. Again, you increase that fiber amount, and that's going to have that improvement. Look at this one. This one also just came out a couple of weeks ago. Keto diets significantly raise that diabetes risk. Not because it's all over the place and so forth. That doesn't mean that it's the most healthy thing to do. This is literally one of those fat diets I was talking to you about. And you may tell me, but doctor, I lost weight with this diet. Yeah, you lost weight because your body went into sick mode. When you are in sick mode, you lose weight. So don't you think it would be better to be on health mode instead of being on sick mode? This one about alcohol. We drank for happiness and became unhappy. We drank for joy and became miserable. We drank for sociability and became argumentative. We drank for friendship and made enemies. We drank for strength and felt weak. We drank for bravery and became afraid. We drank to feel heavenly and end up feeling like hell. We drank for freedom and became slaves. That's the reality of this alcohol, isn't it? They say that it's an excellent dissolver because it dissolves family, your job, and your friends, and everything, you know. So watch out, you know, and your health. So watch out with this liquid. So you can find that and many, many more there on that Twitter account. I every day, you know, put some new ones to help you motivate and do those lifestyle changes in the long term. That should be definitely the goal. So a miracle medication called exercise. As I told you, my life changed when I started that exercise program. Remember I told you, you know, how it really started giving me that interest on health and so forth. And I can actually, you know, put there, you know, before exercise and after exercise in my life, you know, how it changed completely the way I operated. Now, some people take exercise in the wrong way. They think that exercise is the punishment for what you just ate. And this is not the way that things work. If you see exercise as punishment, you're going to be afraid of exercise, isn't it? As I told you, we need that love part in our equation of healthy lifestyle. So if we do this as punishment, we're going to hate exercise, you know. I'm not going to like to go, you know, for a bushwalk or so. And the reality is that we need a lot of this medicine. You know, the fast food industries and so forth are inundating everywhere. I mean, on the way here, you know, I must have counted 2 or 3 McDonald's, you know, just McDonald's, you know, and I've seen the KFC, this Hungry Jacks, and all the things that are not good for our health are multiplying quite a bit. Or sometimes we have bad meaning because when we were in school, our coach was mean and so forth, and we didn't see, you know, the exercise as something healthy, but something that, you know, we had to do and so forth. So that gives us bad meaning for exercise. But the reality is that the longest living populations, you can see a picture of Okinawa, Japan in the top, and in the bottom you can see another picture of Sardinia, Italy, home of some of the longest living people. One of the characteristics of those longest living people is that they do moderate exercise, not on a membership gym type of approach, but with useful labor. And there are many populations around the world in which exercise is just the way of life. You know, there's no other way around it. I was in Malaysia a few weeks ago speaking, and I was talking to a young lady there, and she told me how she grew up in this farm, you know, far from the city, and exercise was just what you did, you know. She was telling me how she was planting the rice and had to carry, you know, these heavy weights, and there was no running water, so she had to carry the water and so forth. Yet, here in the Western world, life is very easy, isn't it? You just move the thing and the water comes out, you know. You switch, boom, the light comes up, you know. No need to be carrying the gasoline, you know, to put in your lamp and so forth. Many of our jobs, it involves clicking a mouse, you know, not having to carry things and, you know, do the hoe and so forth. Life can be very, very sedentary in the Western world, and we get ourselves in trouble because of that. You know, for example, there's very interesting studies. If you ever go to Asia, if you ever go to the Middle East, you're going to see that people do this squatting all the time. I was in Ethiopia catching a plane, and it was a little bit delayed, and I started observing. There was this guy, he just squatted there, and there was this other girl that she was talking, and she just squatted there, And they were just talking to each other like that. It was a comfortable position for them. For some people, this is what they do in their gym. When they go to the gym, it's part of their routine. They need to do a little bit of squatting and so forth. No, for these people, that's just the way you hang around. You just squat. And it's interesting how by sitting down, we have forgotten the art of squatting, says this interesting article. Squatting gives us an indirect measurement of our core, our core strength. And sadly, even the chair manufacturers had to change the chairs because people are not fitting in them. Now you have these extra sizes and so forth. That's just the reality of the world that we live in. So, should pharmaceutical companies be required to compare their new drugs against exercise? Wouldn't that be a good idea? Let's test, okay, you give me this medication and let's test that against exercise. Let's see how good it is. And how do you define an intervention that can replace drug therapy and has higher efficacy and minimum risk of secondary effects? Like this scientific article, look how it starts. This is the way that the scientific starts. Sitting too much, what says there? Kills, literally. I have in my book, The Pandemic Busters, I have a whole chapter there about it. This is a big deal. Move more and sit less. Why sitting is the new smoking. That's how dangerous it is not to, do enough exercise. In this Harvard Business Review, excessive sitting is a little activity, calls it the Harvard Business Review. And in this study about Australians, they found out that for each additional hour of television, or if we can say today, Netflix, that you are watching per day, it increases by 11% your risk of mortality. That's why when I fly, I usually take the aisle seat. And if you ever fly with me, you'll see that I'm walking around in the plane. I'm not going to sit down the whole time, I'm going to get up and move quite a bit. I cannot be sitting down the whole time, I need to get up. So, too much sitting, the population health science of sedentary behavior. Even when adults meet their physical activity guidelines, says the article, sitting for prolonged periods can compromise metabolic health. TV time and objective measurement studies show deleterious associations, and breaking up sedentary time is beneficial. So here is very interesting. They were showing how having physical activity just by itself doesn't cut it. So you need to do physical activity, but there's some people that think, okay, I'm just going to do my dose of exercise and I'm going to sit down the whole day. It doesn't work. That's exactly what this study was showing. So you need to be doing your exercise. I'm not negating that. But throughout the day, you need to do things that helps you being physically active. Don't park in front of the store. Park a little bit in the way back. In fact, you're even protecting your car, because most people don't like to park that far. They're not going to scratch your car that way, Take the stairs, don't take the elevators, and do things on purpose that increase a little bit your physical activity. So here you can see, this is showing their impact on your health between the people that are prolonged sitters. They don't get up, they're in their work and so forth. The black shows there how you start accumulating sedentary time. So at the end of the day, when you measure how much time you spend not doing zero exercise, it increases tremendously. Compare to those people that take a break. Notice how it makes a big difference on your levels of activity. And this one, there's a measurement that is very interesting. It's called cardiorespiratory fitness, or CRF. And in this one, they were proposing, you know how when you go to the doctor, they take your blood pressure, they put you in the scale, and they take your pulse, and they measure your respirations as you visit the doctor. Here in this article, they're proposing that they should take physical fitness as part of that assessment, because that tells us a lot about your current disease risk and even your longevity. CRF, that cardiorespiratory fitness, is a potentially stronger predictor of mortality than established risk factors as smoking, hypertension, high cholesterol, and type 2 diabetes. How much exercise you can do predicts your longevity. And here you can see, if the person was not physically active, it was more accurate in predicting when the person was going to die than being obese, smoker, hypertension, high cholesterol, and diabetes. That is how big of a deal is physical activity. And in this other very interesting study, this was a huge study that was done worldwide. They were looking at different factors that was increasing their risk for an early death. And you can compare the numbers. See the last row, that one that says physical inactivity and low physical activity. The higher the number, the higher the impact of disease on the population compared to the other factors, the low fruits, the alcohol, the tobacco, and so forth. I'm telling you, physical activity is a big predictor of your health. And this one, very interesting study. I put you in the floor, and you need to get up, without having to use your hands. I can predict your longevity by that. So if you are stronger in your legs, you should be able to do that faster. Now, if you're not able to do that, go and call the gym and start your membership again, and start working out on those legs so that you are able to do that. It's amazing the ability of the body, to regenerate and to re-strengthen. So you can see here, the ability to get up from the floor was a strong predictor. Impact of healthy lifestyle factors on life expectancies. So they measure different things that was predicting longevity. And you can see here, when you were comparing different factors, what we knew is that physical activity literally increased 3 to 5 years of life. I mean, that's a long time. I mean, isn't that what it took you to get your bachelor's degree, and so forth. So not only the number of years increases, but also the quality of those years, which is a big deal. You want to have good quality of life. Science shows that physical activity can reduce the risk of dying early from the leading cause of death, like heart disease and some cancers. Only a few lifestyle choices have a large impact on your health as physical activity. People who are physically active for about 7 hours a week have a 40% lower risk of dying early. Isn't that beautiful? 40%, 7 hours. How many hours a day that's equivalent to? 1 hour. Simple as that, So put it in your schedule, Okay, I'm going to wake up and, from this time to this time, I'm going to focus on doing it. You don't necessarily need to do the 1 hour in one chunk, You can do 15 minutes 4 times in the day. That will be completely fine. You can break it into 2. You can even do 5 minutes. 5 minutes, every hour or so. That's good enough. Effect of physical inactivity on major non-communicable diseases worldwide, says this article. Inactivity causes 9% of premature mortality. That's pretty much almost 1 out of 10 deaths. Reason why that happened? Because of inactivity. Or more than 5.3 million of the 50 million deaths that occur worldwide in 2008. I mean, we're talking about millions of people that are perishing because they are not doing exercise. If inactivity were not eliminated but decreased by 10% or 25%, more than 500,000 and more than 1.3 million deaths, respectively, could have been averted every year, just by increasing the amount of exercise. Even our anatomy has changed because we don't do enough exercise. See, this is the anatomy of your feet. And if you have ever seen a little baby, you're going to notice something. The toes of this baby are extended. Like this. If you make a footprint about it, it's not going to be like this. It's going to be like this, that feet of that baby. Now, people in primitive places that don't use, so much shoes and so forth and do lots of exercises, their feet are like this. But if you, after the lecture, go home and take your shoes off, your feet may be like this, We have our feet like this. It's not designed to do exercise very efficiently, isn't it? If your toes are like that, it gives you a little more stability, as the toes are like this. But as the toes are like this, that's not very good for your stability. So you can see our anatomy has changed as we have, decreased our activity and so forth. So it's exercise medicine. This very good article, look at this guy, how he called exercise training. He said it's something that lowers your cholesterol, is something that lowers your high blood pressure, is something that helps with the rhythm of the heart. It's something that helps to increase the diameter of your blood vessels so that the blood can reach everywhere. It's diuretic. It helps you with your levels of energy. It helps you reduce weight. It helps you to have, the proper sleep at night. It lowers your glucose. It tranquilizes you. It helps you fall asleep faster. And it helps with depression. You may be saying, Doctor, where do they sell this pill? I want to buy it. No, there's no pill. This is called exercise. Isn't that beautiful, that you get all these benefits from doing exercise. So, when you compare the effect of exercise against some of the leading medications, you're going to see that exercise is cheaper. Exercise doesn't have the side effects that the medications have. And exercise is effective at treating many of those conditions. And that's a problem that we have today. We have what is called the poly pill problem. It's not only one medication that we take, but we take this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and then they start interacting with each other, and all kinds of problems that this causes. Sometimes we need to even use an app because it's so complex. There's so many medications that we need to put them all in the app and see, what complication this is going to have in liver, in the kidney, and so forth. Here's one of our patients. This is a patient of ours, came here to Weimar in California. Classic patient that comes to us. The patient had high blood pressure, 150/78. He was taking 2 medications. The patient was weighing 173 kilos, and the patient had diabetes. He was taking 1 medication for diabetes. What did we do? Plenty of exercise. In fact, we even give our patients a shirt that says, move, move, move. Okay? That's how much exercise we do many times in the day as part of the treatment. Of course, the plant-based diet, the rest, the spirituality, and the whole package. In only 18 days of doing that, we had to stop his blood pressure medication. He did not need that blood pressure medication because his blood pressure came down to 116/72. Beautiful numbers. We had to stop his diabetes medication because his diabetes came down to normal levels. And then 6 months later, he continued at home making those changes, continue without medication of blood sugar or blood pressure. And then 11 months later, when we do complete blood analysis, his blood pressure is perfect, 110/68. His cholesterol is beautiful, 3.6. His LDL, bad cholesterol, beautiful, 1.5. But the number that surprises the most there is what is called the hemoglobin A1C of 5.5, means he is no longer diabetic. Good or bad? Good. And here you can see, after a year and a half, after losing 64 kilos, no longer obese, no longer hypertensive, no longer diabetic. And that's why I love what I do. I've done this for 30 years, and I could tell you story of a story of a story. The patients get better. I remember when I was in my training, I was not able to, give the prescription and so forth. Somebody else was doing, above me. And it was frustrating to me because the hypertensive patient would come and we'll see him next month. His blood pressure actually went up. We had to add a second medication. And it was a never-ending process. While here, the patient gets better. You can find the studies there on that ResearchGate. Just Google Francisco Ramirez ResearchGate. So, what about, the problems of just taking medications? Well, in this study, it was documenting how by prescribing the wrong medications, 106,000 cases mortality was caused in hospitals in America in 1998. Look at that, just by prescribing the wrong medication. So 7,000 people, wrong medication, 20,000 deaths because of errors. They gave the wrong medication, 12,000 because of unnecessary surgery, and 80,000 because of an infection that they caught when they came to the hospital. And this other one, 199,000 additional deaths may result from prescription drugs in outpatient visits. Now, there was this very famous runner. If you, were like 20 or 30 years in 1980s, you may remember him. He is the one that made popular running in the 1980s. His name was James Fix. Story, he was a smoker, drinker, sedentary guy. And one time he was watching television and saw this competition of running, and he said, you know what, I can do that. So he started doing exercise. He liked the running, so he started running and running and running. But he didn't change the rest of his lifestyle. His diet was junk food completely. In fact, there's an interview, you can even, if you Google it, you can find it. They're interviewing him in the radio, and they're asking him, what do you like the most of being a runner? He says, oh, because I can eat whatever I want and I just burn my calories in running. Well, that was not necessarily true. A few months after that interview, they found this guy dead on the side of the road by a massive heart attack. So, exercise is beautiful, but don't forget the rest of the lifestyle. You still need to do, the diet and rest and so forth. And in this interesting study from journal Circulation, it was showing that heart deaths are actually quite rare, only 5% of the cases. And in this other study, severe complications of exercise are actually rare. So, in this study, the researchers from London School of Health, Harvard, and Stanford compare exercise to medication and found that exercise often worked just as well as drugs for the treatment of heart disease and stroke and the prevention of diabetes. So you can see, let me tell you how you read this chart. Do you see that long line? It means that things working very well. So for example, for heart disease, you can see there how it's similar to the rest of the interventions, because as we mentioned, heart disease, you need to change the diet and so forth. Exercise by itself won't cut it. But for stroke, decreases, very much and so forth. Exercise as medicine, evidence for prescribing exercise as therapy in 26 chronic diseases. So physical activity is going to help you lose the excess weight, and when you have excess body weight, especially this abdominal fat, your immune system starts going haywire and start attacking you. It's not necessarily an autoimmune condition, but it's something that we call chronic inflammation. And that chronic inflammation is what causes Alzheimer's disease, is what causes most of the heart attacks and strokes, is what causes most of the diabetes cases, is what causes most of the cancers. So it is a big deal, that chronic inflammation. We want to lower that chronic inflammation ASAP. So then we're comparing exercise and the effect that it has on multiple factors. And you can see here how exercise was the solution to this, because most of those diseases, they could be traced to lack of physical activity. So this fat that is there in the abdominal area, that is what causes that inflammation. And this one, the anti-inflammatory effect of exercise, talking about how exercise helps stop that chronic inflammation. Low volume, high intensity interval training reduces the high glucose and increases the muscular capacity to help absorb a lot of the glucose, which helps the diabetic patient to heal from their glucose. And you can see here, after exercise, 369% more efficient your muscles absorbing that excess glucose. That's why the patient with diabetes starts getting better, as the muscles start absorbing all that excess circulating sugar. And this other one, exercise training plus weight loss increase pancreatic beta cell function. I mean, that's a very good news. See, when you have diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, your cells in your pancreas start to get damaged and start to die the longer you have that type 2 diabetes. Here is showing that those cells in your pancreas start to increase. Your pancreas starts to heal as you start doing exercise. That's the good news on those patients. In this one, they were comparing this very invasive surgery they do to try to open your arteries against exercise. showing that exercise is effective in the healing of the heart disease. And this one, this is the title of the scientific article, reduce diabetic, hypertensive, and cholesterol medication use with what? Walking. Beautiful, isn't it? So we need some good shoes so that we can go walking, and how it decreases our need for multiple of these medications. So look at this. These are some of the benefits of exercise as published in the journal JAMA, the Journal of the American Heart Association, one of the top medical journals in the world. So you can see how exercise helps you decrease the heart disease, decrease the blood pressure, control your glucose, lose weight, improve your ability to retain that bone mass, which causes, if you lose too much, you're going to end up with osteoporosis. It helps increase your self-esteem, your energy, your mood, decreases stress, improve your sleep, increase interest in sex, better endurance, stress relief, improvement in mood, increase energy and stamina, reduces tiredness, that can increase mental alertness, weight reduction, reduce cholesterol, and improve cardiovascular fitness. Isn't that beautiful? So now you know what you're going to do tomorrow, isn't it? You're going to put your shoes on and you're going to start the day, with some activity. It's going to make you feel better. And you're going to start getting all these benefits from your exercise. Also, a huge problem here in Australia, dementia and cognitive decline. Well, exercise helps you is beneficial both in children and adult. There is an ample evidence to support exercise as one of the most effective means available to improve mental and physical health. For our depression patients, exercise is not optional. It's part of the treatment. You want to get better on depression, you have to do exercise. This is a non-negotiable one. You have to do exercise. The published research shows that exercise is even more effective than taking medication regarding mental health. There are 4 parts of exercise prescription. Frequency, how often you're going to do it. Intensity, how hard you're going to do it. Time, how long you're going to do it. And type, what. So, if I'm not used to exercise, I need to start slowly. Don't go tomorrow and do 4 hours of exercise. If not, you're going to hate me for the whole week. I'm going to be so sore. You're not going to be able to get out of bed in 2-day time. You start slowly and so forth. But the younger you are, the more intense your exercise should be. For depression, for mental health, we want exercise that makes you sweat profusely. That's the right type of exercise you need to be doing. And you need that balance. Not only the walking and running and so forth, you also need to do some weight lifting. As I told you, we're too sedentary in our society. If you told me, well, doctor, my work involves, using the whole, 5 hours a day, well, you're done. You don't need to work out your upper back. But most of us do need it. That's what I did this morning. I went to the gym there in Parramatta. I had a nice workout there with the weights and so forth. So the FITT, the frequency, the number of sessions, try to start with some goals, I'm going to walk, 3 times a week, 5 times a week, and so forth. Intensity, I will walk at a moderate intensity, such as I will be able to talk but not be able to sing. Time, how much you're going to do it, 30 minutes and so forth. Put it in your agenda. Don't say, oh, well, if I have time, I'm going to go. You're not going to do it. I can guarantee you. Put it in your agenda, From 7 a.m. to 7:30, I'm going to be there in the trail. Another thing, partner with somebody that you're accountable. Because there's some times that you're going to feel like, well, well, I don't want to do it and so forth. Oh, no, you said that we're going to do it. Come on, put your shoes on, let's go. And then you can get, that accountability and that motivation from the other person. And then the type that you will do, that swimming, that biking, walking, gym, and so forth. Last year, I ran a 5K. I won the race. Not my category, I literally won the whole race. Not supposed to do those things at my age, But, as you start investing on your physical fitness, you're going to start harvesting, the benefits from that physical fitness. And it's interesting, even in the Bible, it talks about it. 1 Corinthians, I therefore so run, not so as uncertainly, so fight I, not as one that beateth the air, but I keep under my body and bring it into what? Subjection. Control your body. Sometimes your body will tend to laziness and so forth. Tell them, no, let's go. Lest by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. So in conclusion, don't punish your body with exercise for what you eat, and don't deprive it of rest. As important as exercise is also the rest part of it. People that go to the gym and every day they're like doing so hard, they're going to end up getting injured. You need that equation, working out, but also resting. What do we call a medicine that cures the need for other medicine? That's a good question, isn't it? If moving is hindering your task, then moving is your task. Movement, move often, all day, every day. There's no question about it whether exercise is medicine. Rather, it is the solution to the problem. So thank you very much for coming tonight, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Tell your brother, your neighbor about the seminar, and let's continue to learn, more about how to improve our health. Thank you very much.